Welcome to the 26th edition of Stump the Pastor. So our question today comes from Marge in Birmingham. And she asks, what is and isn't salvific? And why does it matter? Well, you should know that Marge has been a pastor longer than I've been alive, so I appreciate her offering us a discussion item that makes us really have to think about our understanding of what it means to be a Christian. But just so we're all up to speed, let's begin by defining some terms like salvific. Something is salvific if it leads to salvation. Well, that wasn't very helpful, was it? But salvation also means different things to us, doesn't it? Many of us who grew up in conservative Christian churches have one understanding of salvation, of being saved. We think of it in terms of giving our life to Jesus, maybe praying the sinner's prayer, or being washed in the blood of the Lamb. But others of us may hear this list and think, what in the world are they talking about? In Orthodox Christian churches, for example, they speak of the salvific truth being the person of Jesus. So when you know the person of Jesus, that is salvific. Well, the word from the Bible that we translate salvation is better translated as wholeness. To be saved is to be made whole. Now, that makes sense when we think about it, even from conservative situations. But some of us also understand salvation as God's presence in us and our broken world that leads us to integration within ourselves. So it's not just about in us, but how we then impact our world. So it's about healing the broken parts of us and healing the brokenness in our world. And that is my understanding of salvation. Now, for me personally, I grew up in a Christian tradition that starts with asking Jesus to come into my life. So to be saved was to become a new person. I now believe that those moments of personal transformation in one's spiritual journey are just the beginning steps toward allowing God's grace to have more of me so that I can let go of the broken parts of myself that prevent spiritual integration. And this integration is not just about personal piety, but also how I contribute to making the world a better place for all of us. How we can help make our world whole. So that is an important difference that much of the Christian world seems to have missed. Salvation, wholeness, doesn't just have personal ramifications. It is also how we participate in God's restoration of the brokenness of our world. And I have come to the realization that my personal wholeness is worthless if it doesn't lead me to help heal the sick, or welcome the stranger, or care for the vulnerable, or dismantle systemic privilege for some when others are denied privilege. But let's face it, it's a lot easier just to think about one's own personal relationship with God and let the rest of the world, well, go to hell. But I have to tell you, if we follow that logic, then that doesn't sound like my personal relationship with God has been very transformative. God's grace changes me so I can be part of the changes that help others access grace. Sometimes that grace is about a personal transformation. Sometimes that grace is about standing with those whose voices are dismissed by the powerful. Sometimes that grace is modeling how to be present against evil, even when it is personally costly. And sometimes it simply means affirming Black Lives Matter, or the immigrant is my neighbor, and that every human is worthy of respect. It means that our planet was given to us to nurture, not destroy. Salvation is so much bigger than many Christians seem to realize. And I guess, in answer to Marge's question, that's why I think salvation matters. From the first moments of creation, God gave us these gifts: a planet, a life, a world, blessings, and also each other to care for. That's why, to me, faith matters. We've been entrusted with these amazing gifts. I guess we could hoard them for our own personal benefit, but doesn't it make a lot more sense to use them to benefit all God's creation? I hope more and more of us choose the latter. See you next week on Stump the Pastor. Well, what do you think, Marge? I tell you what, if you think there's more to the question, why don't you come on Stump the Pastor with me and we'll do this one again. For the rest of you, if you've got questions, let me know about them. My email address is on your screen. See you next time on Stump the Pastor.